Christmas in July. Let's go make a quilted Christmas stocking. But first, always remember to share this so it was saved to your profile and you can find it when you're looking for it again later. I started by going to Hometown Quilt Company and downloading the stocking pattern. I cut my pieces out and taped them together. Now, I had some pieces left over from some of the projects that we're making for Missouri Star Quilt Company. I had some of the 10-inch squares left over and some of the 5-inch squares left over. So I used the 5-inch squares, and the 10-inch squares I cut in half and in half again. I need 12 squares for the front stocking piece and 12 squares for the back stocking piece. And I know that because I laid my pattern on top of it to see how many squares I needed. I didn't want to sew this extra row if I didn't have to, and turns out I don't. I laid my stocking pieces out like I want them to look. I laid this one with the toe pointing that way, and this one over here we're going to sew in a minute with the toe pointing this way. We do want our toes pointing in opposite directions so that when we sew them together, they go in the same direction. I'm going to show you this trick that I use with my clips. We've talked about it before, but just in case you don't remember. I'm going to take my first piece, turn it upside down, and then I'm going to gather all of my pieces up, and I'm going to clip at the top of my first piece. That's going to tell me when I'm finished sewing that this is the top. Now, you can number your rows with a scratch piece of paper or whatever you have. You can pick them up and sew them 2 at a time. You do whatever works for you. I have 1 row, 2 rows, 3 rows, and then I'm just going to put them on top of each other like this, and I'm going to sew these. Now, here's the other side of my stocking. Notice the toes point in that direction. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to put a clip on the top, and then we're going to turn it face down. And I'm going to pick up the 2nd row, and then I'm going to pick up the 3rd row. So I'm going to push the other side of our stocking to the side for now, and we're going to work on this one. I'm going to pick up these first 2 pieces, and I'm going to place them pretty side to pretty side. And I'm going to sew right here. And when I'm finished, I'm going to open it up, and that's going to be my reminder that that's the top of this row of my stocking. Now, if you're not comfortable with anything I just said, sew 2 pieces at a time. You could also take a photo of your pieces when they're laid out, and then after you sew it, you can look at your photo and know which way to put your pieces back together. I'm going to sew this pretty side to pretty side with a 1/4 inch seam, back stitching when I start and when I stop, because my grandma said so. I'm going to sew all of my rows for both pieces of my stocking, and then we'll see what's next. This fabric is from the Sugarberry collection by Andover that Missouri Star Quilt Company sent us to make those beautiful pillows with. They let me choose my fabrics, and I loved these. I hope y'all love them as much as I do. They're linked in the caption. Just click the link and scroll down, and you'll see all of the fabric options. I made these out of 5-inch squares because that's what I had, but they would be precious made out of strips, or if you wanted to make them out of even smaller squares, that would be cute too. And I know all of y'all are running to your sewing room right now to make Christmas stockings, so don't forget to email me a photo to hometownquiltcompany@gmail.com. We all want to see. I've sewn my pieces. Now, we know that this is our toe. That's upside down. That's why my clips are there, so I can remember. This is our toe, and then here are our 2 patchwork pieces. And the same thing is true for the other side of our stocking. Here is our toe, and then here are our 2 rows of our patchwork pieces. So now what we're going to do is pick up 1 row, lay it pretty side to pretty side, and we're going to sew down this side. You're going to make sure that your seams match. And I don't care, no we're not. Y'all, I know y'all are yelling at me, why are we not ironing this? We're ironing it right now. This is my ironing situation. We've talked about it before, and it's a total situation, and I get it. Insulated pad, wool mat, sheet iron, everything's from Walmart, and it's all linked in my Walmart storefront. That's linked in the caption if you're looking for it. And I am not ironing my seams open or even necessarily to one side. I'm just ironing my pieces flat. But if you want to iron them open, I want you to. Do not yell at me for how I iron, because I'm not changing. I mean, I might, but it's not looking very promising. These fabrics are absolutely beautiful. The hardest part about any project to me is deciding what fabric goes where, because when you love them all, it's so hard to choose. And I love all the fabrics. So we have 2 rows and then a short row, 2 rows and a short row. And you notice our toes are pointing in opposite directions. That's so that when we pick it up and put it together, the toes will point in the same direction. So now we're going to turn these over, lay it pretty side to pretty side, and sew down this seam. We have our clips here to tell us that's the top, right? We're going to take this clip off because we're going to turn this over and sew it pretty side to pretty side. And when I open it back up, I need to know which side does this piece go on. Does it go on here or on this side? And if I leave this clip here, that tells me that this piece goes on this side. So we're going to turn it over, line all of our pieces up, make sure your seams match, pinch it, pleat it, pull it. I don't care how you get it there, just make your seams match, okay? I am not nesting my seams, but I am going to look at them as I sew and make them match. Now I'm going to sew these two, I'm going to open it up, and I'm going to sew this one to it. And then I'm going to do the same thing to the other side of my stocking. Christmas stockings are so easy. I think I've made my family new stockings every single year. I just can't help myself. Now, after I've sewn these two together, I know that this piece goes on this side because we just talked about it. I'm going to turn this over, and I'm going to start sewing at the bottom instead of in the middle because it's a short piece and I want them to be even. I'm going to turn it over, and I'm going to sew right here. Straight stitch, 1/4 inch seam, back stitching when you start and when you stop, because my grandma said so. And y'all can make them for your whole entire family. And here's a tip. When you make them, make some extras, because you're going to want to add somebody, and you're not going to be able to find the fabric. So just make a few extra, put them in the back of the closet or with your Christmas stuff, and then you always have them. Okay, we've sewn both pieces of our stocking, the front and the back. Toes going opposite directions. That's very important. Now we're going to iron these pieces. So when I went to Missouri Star Academy to teach y'all, the first class I did a demo on this Christmas stocking, this exact same thing actually. And I had sewn all of my pieces individually, like I did the first step and the second step and the third step, so that I could hold them up, show them what I had done. And I held my pieces up and my toes went in the wrong direction. We're going to iron all of our pieces. Again, we're just ironing them flat. You just want it to be flat because you're going to lay your pattern on top of it in just a minute and cut it out to the shape that we need it. This is going to be so pretty. Now you can make this with as many pieces as you want, meaning you can make smaller pieces or you could make it with one single piece of fabric. You do not have to piece yours together like we did. And you also can quilt this if you want to. I'm not going to quilt mine, but you can absolutely quilt yours. Or do y'all want to quilt it? Y'all do, don't you? Okay, I heard y'all yelling at me. We'll quilt it. Let me get some batting. Let's see if this scrap will work. No, almost, but it won't. I thought it was big enough. Okay, so we're going to take 2 pieces of cotton batting, or whatever you want to use. If you have scraps of flannel or fleece or felt, that would all be fine too. Okay, I'm going to quilt my whole piece before I cut my pattern out. So I'm going to lay my pieced piece, my patchwork pieces that I made for my stocking, on top of my batting. And I'm just roughly cutting it out. Now I'm going to take my second piece and put it on here. So you can quilt this any way you want actually, but I'm going to tell you 2 very simple ways. Number 1 is called stitch in the ditch, where you just stitch right in the seam that's already there. And the other way, which is the way that I'm going to do it, is I'm going to guide my presser foot on this seam, and I'm going to sew stitches down either side of each seam. So down this one, and then down each one of these, and then I'm going to do the other piece. These would also be super precious with a cute applique on the front. Think ballerina shoe or dump truck, deer head, whatever your family's into. There's something so special about Christmas, and the fabric just make you happy to sew. And it doesn't matter if it's these bright and shiny ones or the more traditional ones. Christmas just is happy. It's a happy, happy time. And I personally love a good Hallmark movie. My husband makes fun and he says, I wonder how this one's going to end. And I say, I don't know. We'll have to wait and find out. If I wanted quilted Christmas stockings and I didn't have any batting, I would use flannel or felt or fleece or polyester batting or whatever I had. My grandmother taught me to sew, and she didn't have access to a lot of the things we have access to now. So she was the queen of use what you have. Okay. So we've quilted, because y'all yelled at me, both of our pieces. Now, we're going to take our stocking template that we've cut out and taped all of our pieces together from our pattern, and we're going to lay it on top of our patchwork pieces that we've quilted, and we're gonna cut it out. Now I'm marking mine with a Sharpie. Y'all don't yell at me. It's gonna be on the inside. Nobody's ever gonna see it, and it's gonna be perfectly fine, but mark yours with whatever you want. Your stocking pattern includes the seam allowance, so just mark around the stocking. You're gonna mark 2 mirror images so that your feet will go in the same direction when you sew it together. So you're gonna mark one like this and then turn it over and mark the second one. I love everything about this. So my childhood best friend is still my best friend, and she used to sew with me, except one time she decided she was gonna make Christmas stockings. And if you've ever made Christmas stockings the traditional way, you feel very sorry for her, don't you? Me too. Because putting the cuff on is not fun at all. And she got to the cuff part and she quit. She put her fabric, her sewing machine, and the unfinished Christmas stockings all in the attic. And they're still there right now. It did her in. All right, so we're gonna cut both of our pieces out, and then we have to cut out the back of our Christmas stocking, or the inside, the lining, whatever you're calling it. Now we're going to lay them pretty side. You know what? If you watched the stocking ornament video the other day, you can make this stocking that exact same way. You don't have to do what I'm doing right now. This is how the pattern tells you to do it, but they're both super easy, so you do whatever works for you, okay? We're going to take our 2 pieces, we're gonna put them pretty side to pretty side, and we're gonna sew all the way around. 1/4 inch seam, back stitching when you start and when you stop, because my grandma said so. And do not sew the top of your stocking shut, or Santa won't be able to put anything in it. So just down, around, and back up. I used to hate making Christmas stockings too, until I figured this out. And this turned a project from miserable to super fun. And for those of you who have made Christmas stockings the traditional way, you absolutely get it. Now we're gonna set the front of our stocking to the side. I know y'all wanna see it, so do I. And we're gonna cut out the lining of our stocking. This project is also fat quarter friendly. You could make it with 2 fat quarters for the lining and 2 fat quarters for the outside. If you had some perfect ones that you weren't sure what you were gonna do with them, but you just love them, this may be your project. And it's Christmas in July, so if you get started now, you can make Christmas stockings for everybody in your family because they are so easy. These are my scissors from Missouri Star Quilt Company. They're the Amelia 8-inch scissors, and they're my favorite, y'all. They cut so good. Now, I folded my fabric over, and I'm cutting both pieces at the same time. You can pin or clip, or, well, you'd have to pin since you're cutting, but you can pin it if you want to before you cut it. I obviously am not pinning mine, but I'm cutting out 2 pieces because the fabric is folded over, and I need a mirror image, which means I need the toes going in opposite directions, just like this, okay? Now, we're gonna lay these pretty side to pretty side. So I've got my fabric, pretty side to pretty side. I've cut it out, and it looks like the stocking. I'm gonna measure down from the top 4 inches, and I'm gonna draw a line. And then I'm gonna measure down 3 more inches and draw a line. So I'm drawing a line at the 4 and then again at the 7. And that's actually my hole to turn everything right side out. But we're gonna add something to that hole. Now, you can use a piece of ribbon or canvas webbing, whatever you have. Y'all know my current obsession is lace of any kind. So I'm using this sweet crocheted lace. I've cut a piece that's 6 inches long, and I'm gonna fold it in half. Mine doesn't have a front or back side. If yours does, you want the front side to be facing the outside. You're gonna fold it in half, and you're gonna put it right here on this 4-inch mark. Now, I am gonna clip this because I don't want my ribbon to move. So now I'm going to sew from here to my ribbon. I'm gonna sew over my ribbon, and then I'm gonna come down here to this mark, and I'm gonna sew all the rest of the way around. I'm gonna sew this with a straight stitch, a 1/4 inch seam, back stitching when I start and when I stop, because my grandma said so. I'm gonna follow the edge of my fabric with the edge of my presser foot. I'm not going to look at my needle. I'm going to look at my fabric and my presser foot. And I didn't say it, but you're measuring down from the back of your stocking. Make sure that you're not putting your stocking hook on the front of your stocking where your toe is. Now let's look at our stocking front. Dun, dun, dun. Oh my goodness, y'all. This is so pretty. So, so pretty. Now I'm going to put this piece, I just turned it right side out, okay? So we want it right side out, and we're gonna put it down in our stocking lining, making sure that your toes are going in the same direction. So we've got our stocking front inside our stocking lining, and what we have is pretty side to pretty side, like always. Now, we're gonna sew all the way around this, right here. There's no secret to sewing a circle slow and steady. Straight stitch, 1/4 inch seam, back stitching when you start and when you stop, just like always. I know y'all are impressed because I marked my fabric so I wouldn't forget my hole. We're gonna put our hand in the hole that we left and turn our stocking right side out. You wanna pull the front of your stocking out and then push your lining right side out. Make sure that you email me a photo to hometownquiltcompany@gmail.com because I wanna see all of the stockings that y'all make. And maybe I can talk Crystal into finishing hers. It's not looking likely. So here is what our stocking looks like. Dun, dun, dun. And do you see our piece of lace that we sewed in at 4 inches? That is gonna be our stocking hook. So now we're gonna close our hole up, just like this. And you're gonna push your lining down into your stocking. Now you're gonna take the top of your stocking and you're gonna fold it down. And you have a cuff. Dun, dun, dun. Super easy. The easiest Christmas stocking ever. And here's your hook to hang it. Easy peasy. Now this could be ribbon, rick-rack, lace, whatever you've got. Make it match your decor. My name is Tammy. I'm your favorite sewing teacher, and I would love for you to come sew with me.